How many cities can you remember where kidnapping of school children has taken place? Of course, Chibok, Dapchi, Jangebe, Kankara, and now the recent one in Niger State. And I'm wondering, how many schools have already been attacked? Many, right? And destinies of so many, hundreds of children have been affected one way or another. But then here is, of course, as you have heard, someone proposing something quite different, wouldn't you say? He joins us this morning to have a conversation with us. Mohammed Ibrahim is president of SSANU. Thanks for joining us this morning. And one wonders exactly, what do you have in mind, with this proposition? One would have thought, isn't it a way of saying that the security operatives are unable to do what they are constitutionally required to do?
Thank you and good morning. It's nice being here once again. As far as I'm concerned, and the union I represent, it's no longer news that the security system or security operatives in Nigeria are having it tough. And it's obvious they are overwhelmed, and the problems need a different solution. Because, like we did mention, we're a country of over 200 million, and we've been told that we have less than 500,000 policemen. And we also know that internal security is the responsibility of the police. Now, you do not need to go into any experiment or go into any lab to tell you that the result you get is negative, because 500,000 policemen or less cannot police effectively over 200 million Nigerians. And one wonders where the problem is, because we have an army of youths, both educated and the ones that are not. And that government only requires to deploy its intelligence. What I mean by intelligence here is that go to where these youths are. For example, every year we churn out, coppers who graduate from the camps. When they finish their service here, they are in the labor market. These are people that are ready and willing and can be, employed or enrolled into these security forces, and they can do these jobs, effectively and also very well. But day in, day out, you hear about recruitments only in the newspapers and on the television stations, but you don't see who are the people that are being recruited. So it is obvious that if we do not have a change in our approach to these security matters, it will become inevitable that not only the schools, but probably people would have to start, climbing trees to sleep on there, because you can no longer, stay in your house. So these are some of the things that we have looked at.
Well, the question again that comes to mind is, especially, but what one can consider that, I hope that government would be able to give it a consideration. Just as you have said, we've heard stories of attempts to recruit some, but when you talk about the security men at schools, I hope it factored in, the peculiarity of the fact that they are security guards, so to speak, and not essentially trained for the kind of things that you're suggesting. Okay, I guess we'll have him back in a bit, but it's quite a lot of things to pack into the conversation.
Oh yes, absolutely. I mean, first, it's important to know what we have on ground at this point. I mean, what is the arrangement like in universities? I know that there are university guards and the rest, but I also believe that there should be some sort of police presence in universities currently. Now, how much or how that works is a question we'd like to ask him, of course, to get his response. So the question would be, how do we build up to this? Because ensuring that we have, or at least making this happen for security guards in university might mean or might need some tweaking of some laws, really, because the police is the only agency, or at least police is one of the agencies that are meant to carry arms in the country. But I think we have him back now to get a response to that. So please go ahead.
Yes, like I was saying, most of these universities of ours are just open lands, and therefore there is no effective means of securing the community, and therefore these criminals go in as they wish. And we do have an arm of the universities that is called the security unit. Most of these security staff are retirees of either the army or the police, and therefore they are not new to security operations. So what we think is that now, having been overwhelmed obviously by the situation, government only desires to license these people after retraining them, because they have already got the basic trainings. And then once you license them, at least they will be able to effectively control or at least protect members of staff and students that are within the precincts of this university or institutions. If you do this, you have also reduced the vulnerability of staff and students. You can also see that from the little number we have, or inadequate number of security personnel, and especially the police, about half of them are doing jobs that are not supposed to be the ones that they should do. Just yesterday in Lagos, I have seen a man, moving around with so many policemen protecting him. You see politicians from the level of councillor to local government chairman, commissioners, even their wives and children. These policemen have abandoned the jobs that they are supposed to do, but they are doing VIP protections. So if the government is not willing to, to openly recruit people who are supposed to do these jobs, they should now enroll, or at least ensure that those security staff in the institutions are trained and licensed to do the jobs of protecting their communities. So this is what we feel, if put in place, at least some parts of the problem will be tackled.
So what is the current arrangement with universities regarding security now? You've talked about the security units, but how much police presence are we meant to have, or do we have in universities now?
Well, I can also tell you that we do not have policemen in the universities, because the security staff are the people, like I said, who are employed by the university councils to man, security jobs. But most of them are retirees, either from the police or from the army or other security agencies. And therefore, those are security men who have no guns, who are merely, controlling and protecting property like buildings, and ensuring that they do some intelligence gathering for the university administration with regards to students, and their day-to-day activities. There are quite some few that you will see with some gadgets, but because ab initio, the system probably does not provide that security in the universities should carry, ammunition. But we have gradually slided into a state of confusion, and therefore, if in the interest of everyone within the community, it will be better to have well-armed security men who can do this job of protection of lives and property for the system. Outside this, I tell you, I'm not a soothsayer, but obviously these universities will run dry, because no parent will want to allow his child to go and get abducted, and then he will be asked to pay what he does not have. It was in the news just a few days ago. The parents of the students from Greenfield said they have paid up to 180 million, probably because they have their money. But most of the students that are in the public universities, whose parents are very poor and from poor backgrounds, who work, and at the end of the day, they don't even get salaries, because we also remember part of our agitation is that most of our staff or staffers in the state universities and also other universities in the public sector have been working for several months and they have not been even paid their salaries. And where they even work and paid, they get mutilated salaries, and some of the allowances that they are supposed to access are not also being paid. So if they fall into the trap of these terrible people called kidnappers, how would they get the money to ransom, pay the ransom for the rescue of their children? So the security state at this point is that we have a civilian security system where the security personnel will hardly do anything outside a settlement of squabbles between the universities and some members of the community. So there is need for them armed.
Right. With the benefit of hindsight, maybe, do you think maybe this should have been a part of the memorandum of action that you agreed with the government, saying, you know what, one of the things we want, because security is vital to the operations of universities. So with the benefit of hindsight, maybe shouldn't this have been part of those items that you were demanding for, such that now it will be tied to something that was maybe agreed upon previously?
Yeah, one cannot but agree with you totally, because but also know that whatever we are discussing with government with regards to our MOA, this is something that started about 11 or 12 years ago, and by then the situation was not as bad. So like you said, with the benefit of hindsight, there is nothing wrong in even government being proactive without necessarily waiting for the prompting of any union in the university to do the needful, because no one would like to trade himself, or his life for doing a job that is not satisfactorily taken care of, and then also at the end of the day exposes himself and his family. We have seen situations where these kidnappers go into this university, pick professors, pick students, pick other members of staff, and then punish them, beat them up, collect their monies, and it has become like a thrift society where they do this at their will. And you realize that even the communities that are living within the university precincts have become virtually a target. Not only the university communities, but such communities that are living outside and within the precincts of the university, where locals come to do their businesses, have also become targets. So it's a whole gamut of problem, and that government should, as a matter of urgency, address these problems. Just last night, we were told that about 200 students from an Islamia school in Niger, and Niger State has become, the latest bride in the news, because it's like everything has totally collapsed in terms of security in Niger, in Benue, in Imo, in Enugu, in Taraba, in so many states. So, short of calling for or supporting this idea of declaring an emergency for security, we really need to save and secure our communities. And the only way out is that I still insist that we are not short of the numbers of people that should be employed or allowed to be recruited to do security jobs. Well, they are all over the place. Anywhere you go, any community, any state.
Mr. Ibrahim, you identified a problem just moments ago. You said that, you've been in Lagos and you saw police officers doing things, jobs they're not meant to be doing. That's a big problem that you identified. So, pending the time, who knows how long this will take or if this will be taken on board, don't you think that first that should be solved such that more men can be freed up to man our universities, spending the time that, these discussions can go on, maybe the laws that are meant to be tweaked would be tweaked. Don't you think that problem should also be part of things you're agitating for?
Well, that would have been the best, but it has become like a ritual. Every IG that comes on board, he will tell you that he has withdrawn police from private individuals, from politicians, but it's just for a week or two, and then thereafter you see them all over the place. It's no longer news. Everybody knows that once you have your resources, you have your money, all you need to do is to reach out to the police, and because also they are not properly funded, probably they need such patronage to also take charge or solve some of these their problems. But everybody knows that VIP protections have become a lucrative business for the security agencies in Nigeria. It's not only the musicians, religious leaders, every pastor, every imam or alfas, everywhere you go, you see policemen guarding them. If you go to wives of politicians, they're all over the place. They have completely abandoned what they are supposed to be doing, And what even amazes me is that we have this Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps. It's a very effective arm of the security. But I don't think proper and adequate attention is given to these people. Because if they are given, they can also complement the police effectively. And you can massively recruit people to join either the police or the Security and Civil Defense Corps. And once you license, you arm them, they will be able to, solve some of these problems. But where they are there, you find them doing things that are mundane, things that are not necessary, and because even the people in government who are supposed to take charge and see to our welfare are also afraid of their lives. And that these people, you have 10 policemen in every house belonging to a politician or government official, and then the ones escorting their children to schools, to their wives to the markets, and so on and so forth. So these are things that government needs to put its feet on the ground and do the right thing and protect the communities. Education is something that should not be toyed with. We know that there is this terrible group that came up from the Northeast saying Boko Haram education. Their agenda is to ensure that schools, education is completely stopped or wiped out. And they have now gotten in, some people, another people that are helping them, the kidnappers. Who knows? Maybe they are also part of it, because what they are what they are doing now is scaring students from going to schools. So if the students cannot go to school, automatically the education system will collapse, and then everybody will remain at home. And these children, when they grow up, they are not educated. You know what it portends for us in the community.
Well, you've raised a vital issue that's been a concern, as you said, for every Inspector General of Police that's come into office, protecting politicians and all. So the question that I think one would want to ask you is, do you think it is something that members of the National Assembly should make a resolution on, that, policemen should do only the jobs they are constitutionally, required to do, and not just protect just about anybody? Do you think it is something they will be willing or happy to do?
Well, that is if they are not culpable, or that is if they are not part of the problem. Because you also realize that most of them are the ones, being protected, and their families. You have a legislator who is in Abuja, already moving with 2-3 security officials, sending about 10 to his village, and where you have 3-4 wives, you have another set of 10 or 20 policemen guarding those families. So that is if they are not part of the problem. But this is something they should do without any prompting, because that is why we have elected them. They should look at the situation and also key into the solution. But I'm happy the constitution review is going on. I hope it does not remain a jamboree that it has always been. If anything reasonable should be done, this should be a matter of urgent national importance, issue of security, and that everything should not be left out, and such suggestions that we have brought to bear now, issues about recruiting more police or arming, ready markets, willing people that are, or trainable people that should take charge of security in institutions, should be something that the National Assembly should quickly key in by, legislating that, all these VIP things should be withdrawn, and that the security officials should be allowed to do the jobs that they are meant to do, pending when maybe if the situation improves, or because nothing stops, people hiring, trained personal security guards We have security companies who can train, bodyguards, and who can also, have this, as jobs for the people. So I think government should also stamp its feet that this personal security should be provided by firms that are providing security, bodyguards job. It happens in elsewhere. If you go to the US, most of the bodyguards are not, official police of the government, but security personnel that are hired from companies who provide such services. These are things that can be done, and without necessarily removing or changing the Nigerians from reducing the number of policemen who are supposed to be doing these jobs.
Well, talking about Nigerians, and perhaps in line with the suggestion you and your organization are making, the former President Obasanjo said recently that the security challenges can best be handled by Nigerians both home and abroad. If you agree with him, how do you see Nigerians helping out in tackling the insecurity challenges?
Well, Nigerians at different level or strata can key into security issues by a very fundamental thing like intelligence gathering. These traditional and local our traditional rulers play a vital role hitherto in securing communities, because they have a retinue of people who work with them from the level of the wards up to the level of local councils up to the state. But if they are not empowered, if they are not recognized constitutionally, if they are not financed, how do you expect them to do these jobs, willingly and also with all pleasure? So Nigerians can key into security projects if government gives a level playing field, if government gives encouragement, if government also recognizes the role of the private citizen. Because you are also aware that many a times when you take information to the police or other security agencies, you're also vulnerable, because somehow the security gets this information leaked to, or this information is leaked to the criminals, and they come back to you, and what comes up later. So the onus is of government to provide the level playing field, to ensure that, to also agree that Nigerians, the role of Nigerians will be recognized, and that such issues would also help. But where government is just playing to the gallery, they will tell you to do this and do that, and at the end of the day, no much effort is put in place, or no recognition is given to people who are willing to help the security agencies. Certainly, the patriotism that you expect from us or from Nigerians generally will not be there. That is my position.
Thought this far ahead, I certainly hope so. But what is the funding structure for this proposal you're putting forward? What would it look like? Who would bear the cost? I mean, you know how funding works, especially in Nigerian universities. I mean, what you're agitating for example, is essentially funding issues. I'm talking about the memorandum of action. So how are the funding of, the ammunitions, because getting these guns are not cheap. What are the plans that you have?
Well, again, there is nothing you will spend for security that is too much. So what government requires to do is just to be proactive by prioritizing its priorities. Once it is resolved, government is resolved to do this. We've been told severally, and even some times ago, that about $1 billion was budgeted or was borrowed from somewhere to fund security. Well, you know that a lot of questions are being asked. Yes, also answers are being told that ammunitions are being ordered, and government is expecting some guns, Air Force jets, and so on. This same way of funding the security agencies, all that is required is that for government to enlarge and incorporate these new ideas that we are bringing on board. Every university should submit a budgetary proposal of what it requires to arm its security units. This can be done. Once you tell vice chancellors to do this, I am sure happily all of them will do, because all of them are sitting on a time bomb. Because no vice chancellor will be happy to have his students or his staff being, getting affected.
Yes.
So
okay.
all government requires is that as universities to submit budgetary proposals for funding for proper funding of security, and this can be done and effectively too.
Well, we have to thank you very much for your perspectives this morning. Mohammed Ibrahim, President of SSANU, thank you so much for your time and your thoughts. Our Sunrise Daily continues in a moment after these messages.